So AccuZIP, when I designed the product in 1992, it's been a desktop product, right? And if that's where we would have stopped, I don't know how well we'd be doing today. So every year we try to think of new technologies, things we can write. So we did this with APIs quite a while ago. And they were simply APIs you could buy and put on your computer, like our pre-sort, our address correction APIs. We have a variety of different APIs that are desktop. Then we said, okay, let's make RESTful APIs, which will communicate between your client and our servers, right? So now everything we write now are APIs first, and then we do the RESTful part of it, and then we'll come out with a UI. So we're doing a lot of work on the back end for new APIs that we can integrate. That's why I can't wait to do the CEO Thank You Tour, which will start this year, probably in July, where I want to come out and learn about your businesses. I'm going to see you, Nancy, Mr. P, and everybody. I really am almost in tears. I can't wait to come out and see you, Paul. Come out and see you guys. But I can't wait to do this stuff. So APIs are really important. I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Let me grab my pointer. Dave always does this to me. 5-minute warning. He goes, 5 minutes past. Were any of you watching Dave? This last one. Okay. Yeah, then you understand what I'm saying. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, most of you, how many are familiar with APIs? Okay, most of you, some of you maybe not. Okay, so real briefly, an API is an application program interface, and the best way to describe it would be you have a restaurant, take a restaurant, then the server, the waiter or waitress is the API. When you place your order, that's your API request, and when the food comes from the kitchen, that's the response. So really, with an API, you have a structured request and a structured response. So it can be pretty much anything, like we use JSON, and it's structured, and then it goes out to something foreign, like whatever, an API, and then it returns to you something structured from the server. So it's going to be like it's going to be an input, but a different output. So you don't necessarily have to, when you submit a JSON, you can get back an image, right? Or you get back something different. We're going to be working today specifically with HTTP requests and JSON responses. There are also XML responses. Our APIs do return results in XML as well, but we primarily work with the JSON structure, which we like it because it's super lightweight. And of course, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It's super common, it's super lightweight, and it allows us to do asynchronous browser-server communication. So when you send us a thing, we run asynchronous. So we're running as you're doing something else, versus synchronous, where you wait for our response. And some of our web services, you wait, and then you can't do anything until we're done, and then you continue. So we run sync and async. And then, of course, JSON grew out of the need for stateless, real-time server browser communication protocols without using a browser plugins like Flash or Java applets, and which mainly dominated the market in the 2000s. Remember Flash? I mean, it's still around, but a lot of companies got rid of it because it's not really secure, I guess. APIs are everywhere, but specifically today we're going to talk about RESTful APIs. And so what is REST? REST stands for representational state transfer. REST is a way to basically access resources on a particular environment. For example, you have like a server that posts your important documents. It could be anything, it could be pictures, videos, whatever. And all of those examples are resources. And then REST defines the way and how those resources can be accessed. RESTful is typically used and when you refer to like a web service, implementing a REST architecture. And then RESTful API is referred to as a RESTful web service based on REST technology, an architectural style, and approach to communicate often using web service development. And an API for a website is code that also allows the two programs to communicate with each other. And we have a lot of different APIs. We don't expose all of them. We expose a few of them, but not all of them. And it relies on stateless client-server protocol, almost always HTTP. and can be used by virtually any programming environment. And we actually, for most of our APIs, we actually have written Java, Python, C#, C++. We've written from a variety of programming languages to actually utilize our RESTful APIs. So you can just go onto our Git. We give you a Git to point to our documentation. Then you go down there, and if you're running in Python, you just download it, and it's already written for you. You just plug in API keys. A lot of what I'm going to show you today, we've already written the UIs. You can take them and do whatever you want. Like our AccuZIP DQ, data, all of our data quality services like CAS, NCOA, all that, we already wrote the UI. So you can take that as a basis to start your development rather than starting from scratch. So the methods we're going to use in REST will be GET, which of course retrieves data, POST, which submits data and to be processed to a specific resource, and then PUT, which updates a specific resource. So in our case, in our AccuZIP DQ, a PUT would be used to update quote, like to give us all your by4s, all your mailings set up, and all of that stuff. We use the PUT. And then delete is to delete a specific resource. Now, some of the other stuff is very rarely used. We're not going to really deal with the head options and patch. We don't even have those in our RESTful APIs, but these are just some of the other methods that you can use to communicate. Now, AccuZIP's RESTful APIs, we're going to talk about all these today. That's why I wanted to kind of get through that first. So average correction with type ahead. So we actually have an example that you can implement into your own website for checkout or whatever that'll do type ahead CAS certification. So as you know, if you've been on Google where you start typing and it starts populating that stuff, we'll give you examples on that and using our API. We're also going to talk about this very popular AccuZIP DQ RESTful API. AccuTrace, you may use it at the UI right now today, like the interface that we give you that's branded. You can brand it to your site. But we also have an entire library of RESTful API calls that you could use in addition to the UI. So for example, let's say you use the UI, you're happy with it, but now one of your customers wants you to send them the web link. We actually have a RESTful API that gives you the job info, like everything. There's probably almost 50 or 60 elements to a job, like the job description, all that, but most importantly, the web link. That's what you send to your customer, which is a secure login for their job. And we return that to you. As soon as the job hits the server, we do a callback to you. And then our EDDM RESTful API. So some people want to integrate EDDM, like generating mailing lists. We have an EDDM RESTful API, and we are just about finished adding demographics to our EDDM tool. So you'll be able to go and say, I want to know what zips and carrier routes have income levels between $100,000 and $250,000, and it will actually highlight them all on a map for you in your area. So we're going to give you demographics tied to all of the EDDM areas. And then, of course, list purchase. We have a UI for that, which you guys can use free. We're not charging anything for a UI. We actually write them and just have them out there for you to use, open source. But you can also program and write your own. And I'm going to show you today on how list purchase, EDDM, AccuTrace, and the DQ all integrate into each other. But for example, I can buy a list with my RESTful API and immediately CAS it, NCOA, dedupe, and pre-sort it. Or I can generate an EDDM list and then immediately pre-sort it and generate all the mail.dat and upload it to Postal One. All with the RESTful API calls. So I'm going to get into the demo. I wanted to get here sooner than later because I got all these RESTful APIs to show you. Who didn't have experience with RESTful? Okay, well you'll learn. This is going to be fun. Yes? Is it 5 minutes already? No. Okay. Let's say time flew. All right, so I'm going to put my clicker away. And I'm going to get into the demo part. This is exciting stuff. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is our CAS RESTful API. If any of you do development in APIs, all of you probably use Postman or something similar to Postman. This is made by Google. It's free, and I highly recommend it. It is a client that allows you to put in RESTful calls. Like you can You have a whole library here, get, post, puts, patches, all of them, right? That you can put in like our web service calls and test it in order to help write your own. How many of you don't use Postman well, Postman is great because it also, when you have your call, it can actually make it for you in whatever language you're using. So, once I add a RESTful API call, I can go under here to code, and I can have Google write that call in PHP, HTTP request. It just writes it for you. You click it, and there's the code. Wow. So Postman is really powerful. I think they have a free version, but they also have a charge version, but it's really inexpensive. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is our casts. And if I get off track, you got to keep me on track because I don't have very much time to get through this. But our cast RESTful API, how many of you gone to a checkout website and you check out, and some of the sites have address correction and some of them don't, right? It's super important to have address correction, and this is a service you can sell to your customers because of all the fraud. Our API gives you a lot of valuable information about the address, which you can kind of correlate with IP addresses of where they're buying or logging in. You can also incorporate, like if it's a vacant address, or if they're having you ship to, especially a vacant one, because they have the package shipped next door, or some vacant address where they go pick it up after they stole the credit card and bought all the product. Or they have it shipped to an address that doesn't receive mail, but it's legit, like a place where the post office doesn't deliver. They've identified that. So this really helps with that. So if I were to go here, the geocode, so these are our APIs. The first thing is I'm going to show you is to type ahead to get a geocode location. So what we do is we give you an API key when you buy our CAS product. You can get that key free. We give you like 10,000 credits free for address lookup. But once you have our API key, this GET call, all I do is hit send. And the result of that is it gives me where my browser, my computer is, the lat and the long. So I have the lat and the long and the IP address. Now I take that information and I put it in my type ahead code right here. So I would put in what countries I want it to limit it to. So I could limit it only to the US and Canada or Puerto Rico and then Guam and the Virgin Islands or whatever. So when I start typing, the only ones I'm going to get are in those areas that I want. So basically, once you do this first call to get that information, so they log into the website, the page opens, you gather this information with your API key, you plug the lat and the long in, and then when they start typing, you can make this call repeatedly. So I just started typing an address, so when I hit send, it gives me all of the addresses that matched. So these addresses right here would appear in your dropdown. So when you start typing, these would appear in your little dropdown, which they could select. And once they select the address, so like you see here, I typed in right here, Bay Vista D. It gave me these examples, Bay Vista Drive and Baytown, all around here because of it didn't give me anything in New York, right? Because the IPs were here. It gave me in Seabrook, which this is the address I want. See, it gave me Clearwater, Dickinson. If I went ahead and added more to this, let's say Drive, something like this, and then CS for Seabrook. See how it limited now? And then it started branching out because it didn't find enough. It tries to fill the first 5. Then you take that address, you actually take this information, and you would put it in our single address. So in other words, you would take that and plug it into our API, give us the input address. You have a firm name, you could put it there, or address to, like this suite information right here, could be on the address to line. It could be right here. League City, Texas. You can also have your own foreign key. So this could be a GUID. So let's say you have a record for an order. You could have that as whatever order number or ticket number, or it could be a GUID that is linked to this particular address. And then as soon as you hit send, the CAS certified answer is back. So if I scroll down a little bit, you can see here the foreign key that I attached to it. So I can update the address on the back end. Here's the last line, completely done. We have all the DPV, so it shows whether the address is valid or not valid. We give you all of the information. We even tell you when it's vacant. So all of these are described in the documentation. So this is a vacant status. This address is not vacant. If it was vacant, it would be Y. So we give you all of the output that you would get through our CAS engine, all in this JSON structure, including all of the standardized information. So for example, DA, if I go up here and type in DADL1, DADL1, here's the standardized address right here. So if I were to come up here and let's say the address I had chosen right here, see it's South Shore. Doesn't matter, let's say the zip code was omitted. Doesn't matter, just a few milliseconds and you can see the address standardized. So what you would do is you would present back to the customer in your UI saying, is this, you typed in this address, but we see this one as being the correct address, and then they can approve it or not approve it. So it's a very simple interface, very simple to use. You can also do batch processing. So let's say you have a whole bunch of records, like 1 million records that you want to CAS certify. You can submit them the same way, it's going to be an array. So here's your address, and here's your first address. Then you just drop a comma in there and do the second address. And of course, your foreign key would be different. It could be a GUID, it could be anything you want, a record number. We have done benchmarking on it, and we find that 20 records at a time, and you just stream them, that's multiple threads. So you could run 10 threads, 20 at a time, and they come back the fastest, even faster than sending 100 at a time. Our services all run multi-threaded, and they're virtual machines across the country. It's the only service that we don't host inside of our offices because we have too many people using it. Like we have the largest retailer in the country using it, and during Christmas season, we're processing 30, 40 million in a month through our RESTful APIs. So it's really robust, it's very fast, and it's really, really good. So when your addresses are coming back, like you submit 20, you're probably going to get them back in about 1 second or less. It's very, very fast. And we have SLAs and all that good stuff. So that's the CAS RESTful API. The next one I want to show you is our AccuZIP DQ UI. So I'm going to go here. So there's 3 distinct things on AccuZIP DQ. You have the ability to upload a list to us. You have the ability to do an EDDM list or to do list purchase. The important thing is that after you buy the list, or after you create the EDDM, or after you upload the list, all the web service calls on our site are exactly the same. To CAS it, to dedupe it, to pre-sort it, to upload it to Postal One, all of them are the same. The difference is whether you're uploading a list to us, generating an EDDM, or buying a list. So I'm going to show you all 3 of those and how it processes. So on uploading a list, right here, here's our web service call. It's a post. If you can see what I use, instead of typing in the URL, in Google, I just put a reference to it, and then everything is under our environment here. So this environment, see the server URL, all your stuff in there. It's also a little more secure. When you guys want to do this, we'll send you a Postman collection. So I'll literally save this. I'll go under here and say export, and we'll give it to you. So you'll have all of these calls ready to go. We'll also give you your own environment with your API key. So then you use that and program against it. We also have a UI that we can give you as well. That gets full user interface. So I'm going to upload a file. So in the body, I'm going to choose a file. The file I'm going to select is on my hard drive down here. S and Q, and it's this one. Now, naming your file is really important because in our RESTful service, if you are uploaded to Postal One or whatever, we can use your name of the file to have the unique name that is in the mail.dat file. So you give it an 8-byte name, if unique, and we'll carry that all the way through the mail.dat. If you don't want to give us a unique name, you can control it in the update quote. That means all the by-4s. You can also include the unique name before you process it. So I'm going to open the file. Now this file, let me show you what it looks like. I'm going to show you the raw data. REST. So your file that you're uploading can have any header record you want. This one only has a few fields, 5 or 6 fields. Your file could have 200 fields. Remember I was saying earlier in my other class that a lot of people submit not only their name and address, but all the pointers to all their assets on their local drive or wherever they're getting it from. We just pass it through. You don't need to map the fields. You only map the fields that, like contact name and address, that we need for processing through CAS. All the rest of the stuff, including your field names, will be retained and they'll be passed through on the outside, on the result. So if you use you can see these names are a little odd, like first space name, last space name, address space 1, all that stuff. So in our upload file, we give you the ability here to map it. So the first name, we put, it's not case sensitive, you just have to spell it with the spaces properly. And so you map your fields in this call, this upload call. And then this new feature called data quality results, if you set this to true, this is one we just added, it will give you an exact postage amount to the penny of exactly how much that list is going to cost you to mail without you doing anything other than uploading the file. So you're telling us that you want to CAS it, you want to CAS it and NCOA it, you want to dedupe it, whatever, and you want to apply any filters. Like you could say, okay, I don't want to mail to vacant records in this call. Like this call right here says, I don't want to mail to vacant records. So we have our documentation will say that filter 04 means eliminate vacant records. So if you include the filters in the upload call with that, we'll actually CAS it, NCOA it, dedupe it, and pre-sort it with 5 or 6 different scenarios for all first class, all standard, different classes of mail, and give you back the exact postage for all those classes of mail. We do that within a few seconds. So that would, 5,000 records might take, 20 seconds, something like that, but you have all the results back for all those different mail classes. How cool is that when you have a service, web to print, and you don't necessarily want the customer, they're not going to buy it, they want to know how much the postage is going to be as well. So you can charge them on the front end before they check out. That's what this feature does. If you say false, I'm going to go ahead and upload the file. And let me close these other windows here. Close these. The next call is called get quote. You always want to call get quote after you upload the file, and it basically gives you all the postage amounts. Because I didn't set that value to true, these are approximate postage amounts. So it bases it on a zip code. We don't validate the addresses. We do some really good assumptions. It's pretty close, but it's not exact. And it's for all classes. First class, you see standard mail, you have nonprofit in here and everything. But what you're looking for is success true. That means we've got the list and we're ready to move on to the next step. So you basically uploaded the file, you've done get quote. The next logical step would be to do update quote. And this is where you tell us that it's first class mail, card size, what the dimensions are, what the thickness of the piece is, if it's based on more than one piece. So if your thickness is 1 inch and it's based on 100 pieces, you put 100 in there. You dictate what container you want it, whether you want to palletize it or not. All of that's in this one call. Calculate container volume. If you set it to 1, we calculate how many pieces are in the sack, the tray, the pallet. You don't have to worry about the counts. That's why I left these 0. If you were to set this to 0, you would dictate how many pieces are minimum in a tray or maximum in a tray, how many are on a pallet. You would dictate all those numbers based on your piece characteristics. Otherwise, you just put in the dimensions, set that to 1, and we do all the math. And then whether the piece is machinable or not, whether you're using ounces, pounds, milligrams, kilograms, whatever. And then what your permit is, if it's in print or not, or meter, whatever. Whether you want to include records that are ZIP +4 coded, if you want to include carry route sort level, and then all your by-4s. There's your mailing agent, your mail, who you're preparing it for, your permit holder, all that good stuff. Everything's in here. And then your AccuTrace, all your AccuTrace IDs, how to upload it to AccuTrace, how you want it formatted, your PAF information, like for NCOA, and everything. You have everything you need in here. It's only one call. So we've only uploaded it. We said get quote, go to the next one. This is our 3rd call. There's only one more call and you've processed an entire mailing. It's ready for Postal One.
Quick question. One time-consuming thing that I get into is if I have a new client having to go online, get the client's mid and crid. How are we going to, let's say it's a brand new person who has a business submitting something online, going to get their account information in the system so that we can create postal documentation
for them. Yeah, the gateway, you can set up a new mailer ID in like 30 seconds. It's super fast. We actually have a video.
We would still have to manually go in and do that particular part of it. It wouldn't dynamically do it.
It doesn't create the mid or the crid for a person like on the post office's website. We do upload a postal one, but you have to have a mid or crid. But you only get, the nice thing is you only get that one time forever. And then in your own logic, since you're using our RESTful API, you store that in a database. So when that customer logs into your website, you have all of those values populated, their phone number, their email address, their mid, and their crid. And then when they, so like our service, Paul, you want to kind of mention this, integrated into yours, right? Monster Leads, great company to process a ton of stuff, thousands and thousands of files. We're also integrated into EFI and XMPie and Print Now, and Postcard Mania uses all of our stuff. So it's a lot, and it's we have new stuff coming in all the time, new vendors. So you just have to manage all of that extra data. I always tell people when you're onboarding the customer, especially with these PAFs, the processing acknowledgement forms for NCOA processing, just when you're onboarding them, have them check those boxes that they understand that the PAF is going to be used for NCOA. Get all of those checks out of the way. Then you can just let them process. And then after a year, they update the PAF. You say, okay, it's time. It's like changing your password. It's time to renew your processing acknowledgement form. Did your mid change or whatever, and you get all that right up front. So you'll have all of that, like their name and address. You just, if they don't have it, you have to have it set up. Unless you're doing a small volume, you can have them use yours. So upload, get quote, and then you hit send. So what that does, it sends it to our server saying, okay, these are all the by fours and my mailing setup. This is cool. This is a cool field. We have probably more than 100 fields that you can add to your output. So if you're the type of person that wants the individual rate per piece, we have a whole, in our documentation, we show you all the fields you can add. You can add the pallet number, the pallet type, the pallet label, container label, whatever. There's so many fields you can add to the output. We just give you the base stuff that is required, but you can use that JSON property to add as many as you want. So now everything's ready to go. So remember, we've uploaded, get file, and update quote. So now the next thing to do is actually process the list. So we can run it through CAS and pre-sort. If we want to do, let's say CAS and NCOA, we just say NCOA and pre-sort. If we want to run it through dupes, we say dupes. So that would run it through CAS, NCOA, dupes, and pre-sort. We just want CAS and pre-sort. That'll run it through CAS and pre-sort. We just hit send. Now, in the very first call we did, this upload file, remember this first call, you can actually provide your own callback. So if you have a web service on your side, like Paul does, when we're done with the processing, we call back to your web service with the job GUID. So when I uploaded this file, you see here, it returned to me a GUID. Right. This GUID is that job, and you can tie it to your record. When we do a callback to like Paul's service, he uses that GUID because it's in the string to make a callback to say, okay, download the mail.dat files. And then after he downloads it, he may make a call and say, upload to Postal 1. That's it. So I've made 4 calls. I processed an entire mailing. Now, if you don't have callbacks, I just do another get quote. So I say get quote right here to check status. And I can tell you right now where it is. It's generating postal documentation. And then I wait another 5 seconds or 3 seconds. It's uploading to AccuTrace. So all of this is happening in the cloud right now. And I'll hit this. And when this is completely finished, it'll actually say task name finished. So let's give it a few seconds.
And how
Finish.
large is that list? How large is that list that you're working on? Right
This was a small list. I think this one only had 1,000 records in it. But even 5,000 records would take about the same amount of time. 100 records would take about the same amount of time as 1,000. All the processes still run, asynchronous. But until you start getting past like 10,000 or 1 million records, even 1 million records. I don't know. Does anybody run 1 million records through the service? You guys run?
Yeah.
How long do you think?
Not.
It's not long.
3 hours.
Yeah. The cool thing is you can run them at the same time. You start 1 million record job and you just start the next one. And then as they get done, they just send off back to your callbacks and then you just download them. So it's not like you're just running one at a time. You can run as many as you want. By the way, I haven't paid a penny. You guys won't pay a penny for what I've just done. I've uploaded a list. I've run it through RCast, maybe NCOA, maybe deduping, and maybe pre-sort. But we don't bill you now. You don't pay, you could be done with that and say, no, I don't want to use it. Because now I know it finished. I know the exact postage now. So if I come down here in this JSON response, you see how it says it's finished? I go postage, I find that value, and it's kind of right here, total postage. There's the postage saved. Come up here, total postage. $263.86. So I ran the whole thing, I got my total postage, and it didn't cost me a penny. We're not charging you anything. And then even now I could say, okay, show me a preview. So this web service call that says preview, it'll show you the first 25 records of the output. So there's your intelligent mail barcode, there's your standardized information, your barcode, your tray number. You see all that? There's your tray number, boom, 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 your package number, all your sequence numbers. See, that's your sequence number, 1, 2, 3. Here's your header up here. So all of that didn't cost a penny. Now, if you want to download it, you just say, it's the same exact call. This is just going to be mail.dat right here, mail.zip. So if I said send and download, it'll actually download it, and I'll show you what you're getting. Save. Go in here. Let me go down. Rest. There's the file. Notice we gave it the GUID that was uploaded. And I'm going to go ahead and extract it. So we give you the hard copy documentation, so you have your container tags. You have your documentation, hard copy. So there's your mailing statement. And there's side 2. We're the only company that prints our pages dynamically that I know of. All the other ones, they print, like, you notice how we don't have A1 here? We don't have A1, we don't have A4 or 5. We only print the ones that are applicable. So our forms will only be 2 pages for the mailing statement. And then here's your CAF certificate. Here's your qualification report. And your pre-sort parameters, it shows you how much your savings is, how many pieces sorted. Pretty cool. So you've got everything in there. And then most importantly, you have your job mail.dat files right here. They can go to Postal One, or we can upload them.
Are you able to accommodate continuous tags as well?
On this one right now, it does cut sheet tags, but see, this is the beauty. We're always doing, so all we need to do is add a flag to this update quote. You just call us and say, hey, I need continuous tags. So we just add a JSON property, set that flag to true, and we output continuous tags. We have the technology, we just haven't turned it on. Nobody's asked for continuous. But we have the capability of doing continuous for sure. And we can even do just a straight text file that you could then run. Then we give you the records. So let's say you remove duplicates or did something. This delete file right here would contain all of the records that we did not include. So you're auditing. You'll have all the records that were not included in your pre-source, so you can show your customers these were removed from the list. They were not mailed. And in some cases, we have the merge purge feature, I think MSP uses, which will document like suppression. So if you're going to suppress records out of your list from like a do not mail or do not call, we do suppression within the AccuZIP DQ services too. Here's your finished product. Notice I included the rate over here. There's your rate for each individual mail piece. This is the vacancy status flag. There's your DPC, there's your endorsement, your sequence number, container ID, and your group or package ID. I could have added 50 more fields. We have so many fields you can do in the output, whatever you want. Plus, it's going to include all your fields. So we don't change the structure. So the output would contain your exact field names up to the point where, right here, where we add our field names. So all of our stuff's always appended to yours. So what would you want to do? If you ran this stuff through NCOA, you're going to want to add to that extra output field that I showed you all the NCOA results. You want to know the old address, right? The date they moved, all of those fields you can add to that one JSON property, and it will give you all of that stuff. The move date, everything. Okay, so now this is going to get exciting. So how exciting can RESTful API get? I'm such a geek, I love this stuff. All right, so what we're going to do is, this is uploading a file. There's just these 3 steps: upload, get quote, and update quote. Then everything else is the same. Remember, cast, DG, all that stuff. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create an EDDM list, and then we're going to show you how to process that. So EDDM, the first call is to get the EDDM URL. So what we do is you just pass this in your API key right here, and I hit send. And then we give you this URL, which you can incorporate into an iframe right on your website. So now when I open up this on my iframe, voila, we give you the entire EDDM UI. This is soon going to have demographics. So right now, your customer would see this on your own website, and you can scale it to whatever you want it to. Good in an iframe. Right now, it's just a blank page. And then I can start typing in 2450 South Shore Boulevard, League City, right here. There it is. Notice that without doing anything, it automatically selected, for an EDDM purposes, my zip and my carrier for this address. So if a customer wanted to create a mailing list for their zip code and carrier route, they just type in their own address. We automatically highlighted it. Notice that there are 937 deliverable and 66 of them are business. We can just uncheck this and it wouldn't mail to any businesses. It just mailed 871 records. If I want other routes, you see how when I hover my mouse over it, it shows me the number. That's going to also include demographics. But right now it's just the number. So I click it, notice that the count went up. So now I can just highlight the different areas that I want to include in my mailing. I can zoom in or zoom out. Click, click, and all it's doing is just creating a bigger list. So now there's 5,082 records in the list. So the customer's doing this, and on the back end, all I need to do is call get quote. So get quote, this one has a true, and by doing that, it gives me a quote in postage, and at the end it's exact. There you go. Quote in postage, success true. Total records, it'll show total residential, total business. And now we're ready to do update quote. Update quote, of course, is a standard mail EDDM list. It's flat size, 9 by 12, whatever. I hit send. And remember, everything else is the same now. Now I just process the list. I click cast pre-sort, done. And then if I want, I can check the status, hit send. And it'll show me here where it is in the process. So it'll say whether it's pre-sorting the list. Just a get call. Should be back really quick. Here we go. And where is, can you guys see the task, what it's doing?
Not yet.
It's in here somewhere. Task. There it is. Postal documentation. See, the beauty is with JSON, because it's an object, the stuff doesn't come back in the same order every time because it's an object. So you just reference task name and you know. So imagine making your own interface when they hit send. I don't know if you do this, Paul. It actually shows them where it is in the process, generating postal documentation. If I click it again, your message could change based on this value. Postal documentation. So once this is done, it's going to upload it to our AccuTrace, and then we can push it to Postal One. Still generating postal documentation. With EDDM, of course, as you know, there are a lot of documentation, a lot of pages, because if we generate all the pages for the bundles as well. Now it's creating unique IND. Believe it or not, in EDDM, we do create a unique IND. So you can create an output and upload it to AccuTrace. And again, you don't have to wait for it because we do a callback and you can start other lists as they're processing. I could have started a list purchase. Finalizing. Finished. So now that it's finished, I can say download preview. There we go. So this is our postal customer, our EDDM list, ECR, see all the carrier route information? And all of that didn't cost a penny. Now I can go ahead and download all of that documentation and everything just by hitting send, download. It'll take a second. And then I'll save that to the disk. And open it. Anyway. And then the last one I'm going to do is going to be list purchase. Okay, so this one came in, it's going to be this one. Let me go ahead and expand it. Here's your EDDM. Ready to go. That's your saturation list. That easy. And then we go into the documentation. UPS or USPS marketing mail. All saturation, 22.5 cents a piece. Cool thing is you can make it so it does EDDM retail, or if you do drop ship for EDDM, it'll do the BMEU drop ship stuff. So it supports all your drop shipment as well. Really cool.
Is there enough in that folder to open that with the desktop app if you needed to do that? Or wanted
No, this does, yeah, you can't open it with a desktop app, unfortunately, but, oh, here's all your facing slips. You know, so it's a lot more documentation. There's all your route information. Okay, so the last thing, I'm going to go ahead and close all these tabs because it's a tiny screen, is list purchase. This is sweet. Okay, so here we go, list purchase. So again, you make this very first call, which you pass the same API key, use the same API key for upload, list purchase, and EDDM. So you pass that to us, we give you a token. So that token is now used so you can do things like, let's say all you want to do is get counts. Our counts are all real time. So I just set up this JSON structure to give you counts. So this is doing the physical zip code, these two zip codes, this one zip code for business, this zip code for new, and then all the different demographics. Now, these demographic information, like dwelling type, let's say for new mover, or let's say this one for home market, it's like, how do you get these values, right? So once you initialize it, you can get the values right here. So if you want to get a list of the database field names to display in your UI, you do that and say, okay, I want all the consumer field names. You hit send. We give you the metadata for all the field names. So if I were to go over here and let me go grab the, let me go ahead and make that call over here again. Give me a second. I'm going to copy this value right here, copy, and then I'm going to find it in here, paste, go, right there. So you see how this says ID, home market value, but you would actually display the value that says display value in your little drop down. Remember that little drop down I showed you in our UI? Right there. So you would grab consumer, you would create a drop down with all of your different list types, and as soon as you choose that value, here's the search field. So I choose consumer right here, and I say, okay, show me all the income estimated home ranges, and then you display these in a drop down, right? Then when they choose that, you use this value 1 in the call for the count. So now when I go back to count, right here, these right here, so you're putting in those values, whatever they selected. So now I hit send, and it's actually going to give me an account of how many consumers are in that consumer list, businesses, new mover, all in one call. I don't know of any other company that does that with all list types in one single call. So in just a second, it'll give us our counts. They'll appear here. There's actually quite a few demographics. And then it'll give you not only a count, but it'll break them down by list type. And this other one will actually not only break it down by list type, it'll break it down by all the demographics. So you can actually, remember that CSV I showed you guys where it showed all the different counts for home, and that's what that one does. It's just a web service call. So shouldn't be taking that long. Give it a second. This is called a sync. Remember we talking about sync and async? This was sync. Odd it's taking this long though. I'll give it a second. I'm actually wired, so it's not internet connection. There it is. Okay, so business, see new business, there's 63 records. In business, there's 93 records. I got all my counts. And then from here, I want to go ahead and prepare the count for postage. So I'm going to take that same call, exactly the same demographics. All I do is add this node right here. By adding that node, it does all my counts and gives me the ability to do a quote. So I make that call. So if I'm doing a list purchase and I want to know how much postage I'm going to pay. So the customer says, okay, I want these demographics. Show me how many records are in them. You make this call followed by our get quote / true. And we give you the postage total without ever downloading the list from the list you're about to buy. That's actually pretty cool. So this result is basically showing how many different zip codes. There's 7 total different zip codes. There's 2 in this one, 2 in this one, 1 in these. And then I just say get the quote, and it'll actually give me a quote in postage right there. There's all my postage totals for a list I've never bought. Now we say, okay, let's download that bad boy with this download call, same demographics. You see right here, consumer, business, same demographics. We're saying now download it. Go. So now it actually will start downloading the list, and then all the rest of my calls are the same. I do my update quote with all my by fours, and then I do my cast pre-sort. It generates all of it, and then my last step is just upload it to Postal One if I wanted to. So it'll take a second to do that. Pretty cool stuff, huh?
You probably have to pay for downloading the data from the...
Yeah, so once we give you your API key, we set your access level to 4. You can do all this, and it downloads the first 25 records of any demographic you choose. We don't charge you anything for it. It's just so you can get the development processed. And then once you say, okay, I'm good to go, we change your access level higher, and that gives you unlimited, and we bill you monthly. So you can feel free to download whatever you want.
Because you said most of this is all free until you download the forms through the API, but I was just assuming that accessing the data through the list purchase is costing money.
Not counts or anything. We don't charge you for counts. Just downloading the data.
You have to download the data so that you can process it through
AccuZIP. Correct. So if you actually download that data, whether or not you do anything else with it, you're paying for that. Yeah. So once you get this success true, we know the list is done. We have the list. At this point, if all you wanted to do was buy a list from us and do nothing else with it, you could download the raw list. Or if you wanted to continue, you would do your update quote, do a first class mailing, hit send, and then do your cast and pre-sort, just like we did on the upload and EDDM. It's going to run it through. We could check status, or we could do a callback, whichever one. Since we're not doing a callback, I'm just going to check status. I can tell you what it's doing at any point.
It's blank.
It's blank. That's
Just went past.
Is it blank still? Let's see here, it should be cast certified.
Ask status is line 62. Was.
So this is going to process through our CAS and NCOA and all that stuff, and then after it's done, it'll be, oh, there it is, it's CAS certified. Right there. How many records did I have, by the way?
39, 31, I think.
Downloaded all of them? No, I'm just kidding. So 3 cents a piece, which is not bad. So once it gets through that, I think, see now it's generating the postal documentation?
Yep.
So it's already gone through the pre-sorts, and now it's doing that. Once that's done, it'll upload it to AccuTrace. As a matter of fact, while it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead to help speed up things. I'm actually going to go into AccuZIP.iAccuTrace.com. Actually, I created better yet, I actually created a one here. Oh. Okay, so let me log in. I think I set the mailing date for the 12th, so I'm going to go ahead and change this end date to the 12th. So let's say, okay, let's go to, this is April, and I'll set 11th, and then the end date is going to be the 12th. Hit apply. There we go. So all those jobs we just did today are now all in AccuTrace. So every one of those sent me an email. So I could use the email, and there's a web GUID in the email, or better yet, I could actually get the job info using AccuTrace's web service. So whenever I click on the job, it gives me this ID right here, which is given to you automatically if you have our AccuTrace web services. So if I go here, I can now go back to Postman, and I'm going to use that number in a second to show you the job information. First thing I want to do here is to see if the job is done. Okay, the job is finished on our backend server for the list purchase. Now I'm going to go ahead and just look at the preview. You're going to see all of the fields. Remember when I showed you earlier all the demographics we get for downloading? There's all that's the header record. So even though I only wanted those few demographics, I get all of the demographics for all of the database types. And we guarantee the list. You only pay for records that are delivery point barcoded. So if you get other records that aren't, you only pay for records that are perfect, that are deliverable. You don't pay for bad records. So we just eat that on our site. So you're always getting good stuff. So I could download the complete list right here. Just hit send and download. This one's going to be this GUID right here, 77. Hit save. Go back here. Go to World of AccuZIP. And it's this one. Okay, extract to this folder. I remember we're used to working on a 49-inch monitor. Okay, here's your container tags. Here's your documentation. Just see if I can see the, is that the right one? 1653? Yep. Go to page 2. So there's all your stuff, your CAS, your qualification report, everything for that list that we just created, along with your mail.dat files. All we need to do to upload it to Postal One is we make this get, and we say Postal One. Because remember our update quote, which gives us all the by fours and all the how we're pre-sorting it, it also can include your Postal One credentials. You only have to give us your Postal One credentials one time, forever, because we blowfish them and we keep them under your API key. So from that point on, unless you change your password, you don't need to do it anymore. You hit Postal One and it goes right to Postal One, and then it'll give you, I'll hit send. So it runs async, because Postal One takes whatever. So now, what do I do if I want to check status? Get quote. Get quote tells you what's happening on our server, unless you have a callback, like Paul supports callbacks. We just call back to him when we're done. So he doesn't have to worry about it. He'll send hundreds of jobs, and they'll just all come back. And then sometimes we'll say, hey, I didn't get a callback on this job. But that's rare. But if it happens, our logging is insane. We'll find, like MSP, we'll literally identify one piece out of the hundreds of millions of pieces they mail, and we'll find it, because our logging is really good. We use LogVM. You guys familiar with LogVM? Oh, so powerful. LogVM will link to, typically when you're in databases, it writes to logs constantly. LogVM sucks the stuff in real time, and it allows you to search by context. You can type in wildcards or whatever. It pulls all the log, identifies the log, and then you hit a button, and it shows you everything around it. So everything that happened before it, and everything that happened after it, with date timestamps. So now what we do is we just do a get quote. It's just this quote, and we can go in here and we can see whether or not, look at this. Postal One upload completed. When the job ID and the user license are the same, the SEG eDoc Center cannot change cross submission. Update eDoc Center. So it tells you if there was an error, what's wrong, and for you to change it and then re-upload it. Isn't that cool?
Should put that in the desktop product.
Yeah. No, it's coming. We are actually finished with it. It's a mini mail.dat editor. We're just charging $200 for it. It does everything. It does all the basic stuff, changing mailing dates and all that. It's called a mini mail.dat editor, which will be able to edit mail.dat files. Okay, so I was in AccuTrace.
Is there a date for that yet?
We're done with it. We're actually finished with the development. We're just testing because the reason we haven't released it already is because we changed from 17-2 to 18-1. And we wanted to make sure that change was done and in place which now it is.
I want to try to get excited about that, but I've been waiting on it for a really.
I know
long
you,
time.
you probably paid for me about that.
I've been waiting on that for like.
The ones who
4
pay
years.
for it don't have to pay for it. Are you done? Oh, 5 minutes, okay. 4 minutes. Okay, so remember this ID that I showed you in AccuTrace. So I'm gonna copy that ID because the last web service thing I wanna show you is AccuTrace. So if I go back here, here's AccuTrace. And by the way, there are probably more than 30 web service calls. I'm only showing you a few here. One of them is the login. So I'm gonna log into AccuTrace. Again, here's your login. It returns to you all your token information, which here is at the bottom. There's your token. That is used to make my next call, the job detail. So now I want to pull that job detail, the one I just uploaded, hit send. Now I have everything on the job. I know the class was standard no flats. I have the total pieces. I have my Java date stamp. I come down here, and the most important thing is I have my web link to the file right here. So this web link I send to my customer, this is a secure link to their job and their job only. So now I just put it over here, paste it, they just click it, and voila, there's their job. There's all their scans. The scans are real time. So you notice this countdown right here? Every 60 seconds we update these charts in real time, and then if they were more scans, they would come in and then we reflect on here. And then if the customer wants, they can go, they can't modify anything, they can't change dates or anything, but they can drill down into the detail. They can say, okay, here's all my stuff. I want to go down and I want to see results by first scan, results by first scan date. All of this interface is yours. We don't charge you for it. You can brand it. So when your customer logs in, they would see your logo up here, not ours. Although you can also write this. Or if you get our RESTful API, we give you this, you can, yeah. And that AccuZip DQ, AccuZip.com, remember the DQ UI that I was controlling all the upload file, EDDM list, and all that stuff? We give you this UI. This is in an iframe. This is the UI. So I can click this or generate an EDDM list, click next. There's the EDDM now. Go here, I want to upload a file, I click that. I go choose a file on my system. Let's say I just choose the world of AccuZip, the same one I did earlier. This one. We have an auto mapping feature, so if these names aren't understood, but now you can go through and you can map them. If they could, it would have auto mapped them like it did city, state, and zip. Here I just say address, address to, and then I hit save. So this is communicating through the same RESTful APIs we just showed you, but this UI is free to you to start as a basis. There you go, I hit next. Personalized map, we also have an API for this, but the UI is done, you might as well just use it. If you don't want to do maps, you just go next. And then you can do any of your data quality services, and if you want to add pre-sort, you click that, hit next. And then all your by force, your permit holder, your permit agent, all of this stuff is already ready to go. So if I uncheck this, see how I can fill that in? Mail owner, that's different, you can fill that in. There's your mailing information. All this is ready to set up for you. This is all free to you. And then move compliance, move update. All this is ready to go, and then you hit next, and you're golden. Then you just pay for it. There's a few required fields, that's why it's not going next. But what do you guys think about the RESTful API stuff? Pretty cool, huh? Thank you.